Hey guys, this is Sarah Elena. Welcome to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, I appreciate you coming back. If you're new, I help people move to Costa Rica, so that's probably how you ended up here. And today I want to talk about something that some of you might start experiencing. Again, this really could depend anywhere you live in the world. Maybe if you've even traveled for an extended amount of time. Reverse culture shock. Like, it's totally a thing. So I'm going to talk to you about my experience with kind of reverse culture shock. I talk about a lot of challenges or things that are going to be different for you when you move. But, I haven't really covered actually what it's like kind of going to be on the other side again, and maybe some of the difficulties. Well, I can at least explain some difficulties that I face so that you may know what to expect if you do kind of if you think that we're kind of similar in some things in our thought processes. So, reverse culture shocks. But again, if this is your first video, I do help people move to Costa Rica. I have a relocation company here. I've been here for over 9 years. So crazy. It's time's passed. I have a daughter who was born here, and we have a nice life by the beach. And I'm very, very passionate about helping other people who are kind of making that same transition that I made, so that ideally they don't make as many mistakes that I made, because I sure made most of the mistakes in the book for my move, which is why I do like to talk to you about them so that you guys know what to expect. And in working one-on-one with people, whether it's through their scouting trips or through their actual whole A to Z relocation and after, we try to help people avoid these mistakes as well and just have an overall smoother experience. All right, so let's get into it. Well, down below in the description, there'll be some links for you. So if you're interested in learning more, you're like, oh, I really need some help. Like, this is getting really overwhelming. We're here to help. You can find information in the description below. But I'm going to go ahead and get into today's topics, which is reverse culture shocks. Okay, so for me, one of the biggest reverse culture shocks is just the weather. So here in Costa Rica, I've lived in different climates, but I've primarily lived by the beach. So that means it's usually in the low 80s, and the humidity is between 60 and 90%, like all year round. So I'm really used to that. I mean, I do use AC at night now. But, even right now, I'm just sitting outside. This is outdoors. I don't have a fan on me. I'm pretty comfortable, to be honest, because it's kind of, getting towards, actually, it's only 1:30. Feels later. Anyways, so for me, the weather is a big shock. When I get to the U.S., I'm always freezing. Even in the summertime there, it's like the humidity is not, for me, I go back to Virginia, it's not as humid as it is here. So when people say, oh, yeah, it's humid where I come from. Yeah, it's humid in Virginia. I'm like, have you felt humidity? Sometimes I have gone back and I felt like it is hotter there, but I feel like the nights in the United States cool off more for me too. So, but I usually go back for Christmas. So for me, that's always a big shock to my system. I have to load up on my vitamins. I really have to load up on things for my body prior to even going, because it's just anytime I get in a cooler climate, even if it's in the 70s, it's like mayhem on my body. My body doesn't like it. For example, just a few weeks ago, I went to Guatemala. It was probably in the upper 60s, mid 70s, and I was already starting to feel like the throat irritation just from the change in climate. So that's unfortunate for me. It's like my body was made in Russia, but I was not made for the cold. So yeah, cold for me, weather's always a shock. Next would be just, I guess, the people. Sorry. A lot of people that I work with are moving because of this, because they feel like they're kind of surrounded by a bunch of unfriendly people. I guess that can really depend where you're moving from. But yeah, I would say the people are definitely way more shut off, cold, not friendly. Like, they don't strike up conversations. They're just kind of in a rush. They're doing their own thing. They're in their own little worlds, that's just the way it is there. But it is much different here in Costa Rica. People, I feel, are just way more open. They just feel more open. They're more friendly. They're more likely to take the time or have a conversation with you and actually just spend personal time with you or talk to you, even if you're a stranger. So that's always a little bit of a reverse shock to me. Actually, one funny thing that I have to remember when I go back is, so here in Costa Rica, a lot of times when you greet someone, you'll maybe go in for a hug and you will kiss their cheek or something. So I have to remember that people don't do that in the US. So sometimes I'll be awkwardly kissing people and I'm like, oh God, or just the cheek thing. And I'm like, oh, sorry. So that's one thing I have to remember not to do. That's for down here. And one thing that I love about Costa Rica, this is turning into one thing I love about Costa Rica, is here just like nobody cares what you're wearing. Me personally, I don't see that anyone cares what you're wearing. Nobody cares what you have. They don't really care. They don't really care. It's not that superficial of a place. So if you're coming from a very superficial place, being here, you're like, oh, like no one cares if you go out without makeup. Like no one cares if you're wearing your gym clothes at the grocery store. Like literally no one cares. That I see. I don't see like a lot of judgmental people around here. That's just been my experience. So that's really nice. So I do feel different when I go back to the States. It's kind of, I definitely feel maybe like that more of that air of judgment around, or, I hate to say it, but I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that's been my experience. Again, I'm just telling you about my experiences. Perhaps you may or may not feel the same. Depends where you're coming from too. Okay, so then the next thing for me would be kind of the reverse culture shock would be I don't find a whole lot of things that I like to do when I go back. So we're from Northern Virginia. It's like, do I go to a coffee shop? I don't, it's like everything that I like to do isn't just as easily accessible. Like I like to go on a hike, or we like to be out in nature. Maybe I just want to go hang out with some friends. Like we do pretty simple day-to-day things, or we just like kind of being outside. For me, when I go back there, I kind of feel like the nature is kind of more decorative in some places. But again, that's also a me issue. But I do have a hard time maybe finding some things that I like to do when I go back. So I feel like I have to like try to be more creative with that and find more things. And that also plays into, I guess, my point number 4. For me personally, so I moved to Costa Rica when I was 23. I'm 32 now. For me personally, I lived pretty much my adulthood. I grew into adulthood, here. So when I go back to visit family, a lot of my friends, that I had have just moved away. So that's a thing too. But, so everyone's kind of just either gone or busy with their lives. So here I have so much time to spend with my friends. It's so easy to meet new people. There's just so much to do for me personally that when I go back, it's like I kind of feel cut off from all that. So yeah. Okay, the next point would be maybe the price of things. So I would say that, when I do go back, I see the price of things like jumping up. And I remember one instance, we went up to Pennsylvania with my family to go visit, and we went to a grocery store, and I was really hungry. I was like, I'm just going to get a snack. And I'm thinking like way back in the day where me and my friends used to go to Harris Teeter and like do the little buffet thing that they had and like grab a few things, and it was super cheap. I remember it was like dirt cheap back in the day. Yeah, we're not back in the day anymore. So I go in there and I can't find anything that's like $5. Like it's all like, I'm not paying like $25 for this little thing. Like this is crazy. So for me, I definitely have like price culture shock where you guys might have price culture shock when you're like, oh my God, the price of cars in Costa Rica is crazy. For me, I'm like, why are the prices of your other things so crazy, or basic things that I want to do? So that can go a little bit both ways, too. Another thing that could be a little bit culture shocky is new technology. So, okay, here's an example. Years ago, whenever they started putting the chips in the debit cards, like so before they were swiping the debit cards, right? And then they put the chips in them. And here in Costa Rica, they didn't insert chips at all, like at that point. So I remember going back to the US and they, wanted me to insert the chip, and I didn't understand how to use it. So sometimes what I love about being down here is kind of like you're in a time machine. Now we got the tap to pay. Like everyone uses tap to pay. You can pay with your phone. It's, we've caught up. But sometimes we can be a little bit behind on the times down here. And, I remember during that time, and I still do it sometimes, you would hand your card to the cashier or whoever, and then they run it and they give it back to you. That's how it was here in Costa Rica. And maybe that's how it was, at some point in the US. I don't remember. But, so when I go back to the US, I would find myself still giving the card to the person, and I just feel like an idiot. Like, I'm at Target, for example, and I have the things, and I'm ready to pay, and I just can't. I'm like trying to hand my card to the poor checkout lady, and she's looking at me like, why are you giving me your card? Like, do the thing. Like, use the little card reader in front of you. And I'm just like, oh my God. So that's another funny thing. Sometimes you'll do things where you're just like, oh, I feel like an idiot. But it's okay. Just because you do things down here out of habit that are not going to be a habit up there, you have to remember. Okay, one thing I would say, reverse culture shock, Not okay. This does feel like kind of a relief. Not so much anymore. Like I'm very fluent in Spanish, and I'll do a video about. I've done videos about speaking in Spanish. I'm very fluent. I can get around and do everything that I need to do, and it's not perfect. I'm not saying that I speak completely perfectly in everything, but I'm very fluent. So it's actually kind of nice though being able to go back to the United States, and I don't have to like think about what I want to say and then say it. Like if I want to just go there, I can just. Sorry, my eyes are like burning. I can just go there and ask someone where the bathroom is, or just speak in English. I can just English. So sometimes that's kind of cool, actually, because here, I mean, although I am fluent, there's times where it is a little stressful. I remember when I wasn't as fluent, going to the store, asking for something. You're almost like kind of rehearsing what you want to say in your head, either like before you go in or while you're there, and you're like thinking of how you want to describe what you need or what you want to say. So for me in the past, going back to the US and not having to do that was kind of like that was kind of nice. My brain had to work a little less, so that was good. So I don't know if that really counts as like a reverse culture shock, but maybe, just maybe they're having that like, oh my God, everyone speaks English, thank God. Like I said, now I'm really fluent. But you guys might experience this, coming from a place where you're trying to navigate a lot of things in Spanish, going for a visit in your home country, and you're like, oh my God, great. Now, like, and that's one less thing I have to do today. I don't have to navigate a whole other foreign language. And it does really give you an appreciation for, people that do come and learn. Go on, Chili. Every time he passes, my dog's right below me. It's every time you pass, you're hitting my scar, and it really hurts. So if you want to pass, just go ahead and pass. Go on. Come on. Come on. Okay, just go. Okay, that'll have to do. All right, so the next one. Okay, I think I mentioned that you're not having to do Spanish. Okay, another one would be, I got 2 more left. So my next, and again, you may or may not relate to these, but just something to like have a heads up for in the future. So the next one would be just the way that your town is going to change in the future. So I grew up in Ashburn, Virginia. And then I moved to Harrisonburg, Virginia, for 5 years before I moved. And I love Harrisonburg. I can't wait to go back. Actually, I haven't been back to Harrisonburg in years. So I am going to plan to go this December. I got to message some friends, and I'm sure that place has really changed since I've been gone. But when I would go back to my parents throughout the years, it's just, where they live, it's changing. It's really like a place that's it changes constantly. And there's all these data centers and new stoplights and new roads. And gosh, I could almost get lost. I grew up there. Like my whole life, I pretty much grew up right there. And it's pretty confusing sometimes when I go back. I mean, there's always new stuff. So basically what I'm saying is I've come from an area that has changed a lot over the last, 30 years. It's really changed a lot. It went from being mostly farmland to suburbia. So just that's always kind of culture shock. For me, going back and just seeing the changes and how my own town has changed where I grew up. And I guess even now I'm going to go back and see, where I used to live has changed. I know there's been some changes on my little dog. You're so cute. Here, I wish you could come up here, but this is my dog, Chili Guaro. He's right below me. He's the one who came with the house. He's one of my rescues. Okay, and then the last one, I would say, I don't know if this even counts. Reverse culture shock, does it count? I would say missing your old life. You might miss your old life. That happens to me sometimes. So when I put on a country music playlist and I start listening to the songs, and I remember all my times in Harrisonburg and the times I had with my friends and being out on the boat and, and gosh, doing the most ridiculous things probably. For me, I was going through college. I'd graduated. I became a social worker. I had a great group of friends. We would go tubing down the river or kayaking or, I don't know. It was every weekend was, all right, what are we doing? Like, let's get out there in nature. Let's go do fun stuff. At least that area where I lived, there was a lot of that. So sometimes, again, I don't know if this totally applies, or maybe it's just me because I'm getting older and I'm in my 30s now, so I'm kind of missing my young, careless 20s. But, yeah, so for me, I guess it's kind of missing my old life. Like when I go back, it's a time that I do reflect on my life before I moved, on the people that I knew, that I know from before I moved. Kind of just like seeing how things have changed, again, seeing how towns have changed, how people have changed. You start to see like who really stays in your life throughout these years while you're gone. Like, I've been gone for 9 years, and I still have friends that, you know, I grew up with, or friends that are from the United States, that no matter how long it's been, no matter how far apart we are, like, we'll always be really good friends. Like, today I was just talking to one of my friends. She moved to Italy, you know, and she's been my friend since probably I was 19 or 20, and we're still really, really good friends. I mean, we still talk a lot. So it just goes to show that also when you move, you will definitely find out a lot about, like, who are your friends? Like, who are those people in your life that are just really those forever people? So again, I don't know if the last one's like total culture shock, but I do have to, I know people are like really excited to move and, oh, I want to get away from here. This place sucks. I'm going to get out of here. You might be feeling that way. But, you know, I don't know. I reflect and I'm like, man, you know, I did have some good times and I had a really nice life as well. And I was very blessed and fortunate. But I also love my life here in Costa Rica. And I felt like I've lived like 1,000 different chapters here within a very small amount of time, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, part of me misses my own life too. But honestly, I think that's just because I'm in my 30s and I have a lot of responsibility. And now I have a kid now. And sometimes I miss being like, you know, 22 and not having all that responsibility. But yeah, so those are the things. Those are what I would say would be my reverse culture shock things. Perhaps if you think kind of similar to I do, that you might have the same kind of reverse culture shock things. If you've already moved, I would love to hear if you've had any reverse culture shock things. And if you're gonna move, maybe put in the comments, do you suspect, you know, when you go back, do you suspect that there's going to be anything that is going to be kind of reverse culture shocky? I don't know. You know what? I'll find out. I'm going back in December, so I'll let you know. Every time it's something different, you know, and it'll be right after an election. I try to stay out of politics, but let's see. And I hear all my news from you, like all my U.S. and North America news I get from you guys during our calls. You know, people do book a call with me when they want to talk about their move or their scouting trip. So I do hear a lot about as to why people are leaving. And so that's where I get my news. All right. Well, in the essence of not making this any longer, I appreciate you. If you stuck with me this far, thank you. If you found the information helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember, if you are looking for information on moving to Costa Rica, you can find it all in the description below. We have one-on-one services. I help with scouting trips, your full relocation, retreats, got a podcast, all the stuff. All the stuff is down there. If you are serious about taking action on something, you can go ahead and book a call with me. If you're looking for free information, just check out the rest of this channel. Like, I've done my duty. There's so many videos on here. You're going to learn a lot. So if you're looking for free stuff, stay on the channel. If you're looking to actually like get stuff done and work together, book a call. All right. Thanks again. And I will see you guys in the next video.